Browser Wars. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by Headspace. Meditation made simple. Visit headspace.com/MacVoices for a free 1-month trial. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is MacVoices Live. We are live on YouTube. We do this every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We would love to have you join us. We have people joining us as we speak in the YouTube chat room, and so we welcome their comments and thoughts and agreements and disagreements and all of that stuff. So tonight we titled the show Browser Wars because it sounds really good. But, we're not going to, I don't think there's going to be exactly war declared. It's just one of those things that everybody uses a browser, and everybody needs to make some choices about what browser they're using. So that's what we're going to do. But before that, a couple things here. First, we're going to introduce the panel, and then we're going to do one other topic ahead of that one, and then we'll get to Browser Wars. So I'm going to go around the room as I always do on my screen. Mr. David Ginsburg is here. David, good to have you as always.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to another great chat tonight.
Yeah, I am too. Judging by what we saw in the Slack, there's a bit of interest in this, I think.
Yes.
Jeff Gamet has joined us from Denver. And Jeff, I understand Denver has now been declared a desert?
Well, it's been a desert for several thousand years. It's just new. Yeah.
Okay. There was something on the news this morning that you guys have lost your, what was it, the subtemperate or subtropical zone or something, and now you're designated as a desert. So who knew?
So we've gone from semi-arid to full arid designation.
Apparently so.
Oh,
sure,
well, I missed that one.
Yeah, congratulations.
Well, thanks. The downside is that means all you other states that have been buying water for us, you're screwed.
Okay.
I didn't buy any water from you.
Well, you're okay, Brittany.
Yeah. That's starting to get into a political discussion. We will save that for another time. Guy Serle is here. Guy, welcome. Good to have you.
Hello. I have to say, it does make me laugh when you say we're going to talk about one thing and then go into another topic. That has not been my experience on this show.
Yeah, well, this time I think we can make it work, and you'll see why in a minute.
All right.
Yeah. Brittany Smith is here, fresh off some computer repairs, but glad to have her. Brittany, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure. Warren Sklar showed up without popcorn to make fun of all of us, apparently, tonight. Warren, good to have you.
I'm just stirring a pot. I'm good. Just want to let you know, Pennsylvania is also declared a desert today. So.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, just let you know.
Okay. Okay. Well, then you can't buy water from us either. Jim Ray has joined us. Jim, good to have you as always.
I have full faith in you keeping us on track.
Save that for the real.
Yeah, even I have to laugh at that one, Jim. Jay Miller and his monster microphone are here again. Jay, good to have you.
I'm just here to say, Kyrgyzstan, $9 a night for a full townhouse. And I mean, the view looks amazing, and I don't think it is a desert. So,
road trip.
And it looks remarkably like the same apartment you're always in.
Okay. Frank Petrie is here as well. Frank, welcome. Good to have you.
Well, thank you. I wouldn't have me anywhere else, so this is where I be.
Well, that's good. That's good. And sneaking in under the wire and rearranging my topic for the night, Andrew Orr. Andrew, good to have you.
Hey, glad I made it. Good to be here. Woo. I'm in a bountiful grassland.
So we can buy water from you, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Good.
The right price.
Good.
Yeah. Down at AP Butler, they sell water in Philly.
Well, you just have to outsell or outbid Nestle.
Oh,
That might
we're
be
all
tough.
screwed.
That
Why
might be
not?
tough
Okay.
because they're
Why
the
not?
biggest water.
Okay. I missed that one. So I said the topics got rearranged because I had communicated with Andrew earlier today, and there was just one follow-up story that he wrote up for the Mac Observer that I wanted to touch on because it was something we talked about an episode or two ago when we were talking about chat clients and privacy and all. And so, Andrew, I'll let you kind of take it away with the most recent development with WhatsApp.
Yeah, so it sounds like Facebook, they own WhatsApp. It sounds like they are implementing a new privacy policy that it sounds like they are already setting on their end, and they've been asking people, do you accept or do you not? And so let's see, I have this article up right now. So it sounded like before that their terms was accept this privacy policy or your account will be deleted. And in this privacy policy, it sounds like they want to, bring you into the fold and share your data with their advertisers. But they had a slight change recently. And so let's see. So it sounds like your account won't be deleted, but some features on your account will be limited if you do not accept the new conditions. So let's see. It says you won't be able to access your chat list, but you can still answer incoming phone and video calls. And then if after a few weeks of limited functionality, you won't be able to receive incoming calls or notifications, and WhatsApp will stop sending messages and calls to your phone if you don't accept these new terms.
That kind of makes the app worthless.
Well, it drives people away. So what do they think they can gain by that? It's just going to push people away even further.
They're not going to care.
Yeah, people don't care. They're clicking through. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not freaking out.
Believe me, they're not.
This is why Facebook never should have raised a fuss, because if they had really thought it through, they would have known that the vast majority of people that are using these free services are just going to continue to use those free services because they're free, and they don't really seem to care until it comes back to bite them in the ass, and they might not even know where that ass biting came from.
Well, and people have a very short memory as well. I mean, when Facebook when Facebook started the whole click through to accept the new terms of service several months ago, people freaked out, and we got through that wave, and people forgot about it. And now we have the new wave with the different terms where instead of just saying you're locked out of your account, we're going to hobble your account, which is essentially locking you out of it. And so we're getting that now, and people are suddenly freaking out, completely forgetting that we already went through this several months ago with WhatsApp. So people don't care. They'll click through. The people that were really concerned about what Facebook was going to do with their personal information and invading into their privacy, they've already moved on to Signal and Telegram.
And I just feel like this is, if you remember when we had this discussion before, we had a big conversation about the messages that popped up after you installed iOS 14.5, I think it was, that said it did the required thing that Apple made them do, but it kind of threatened that this was needed to keep Facebook free. So there's an implied threat there, and now we have this. That, well, if you don't agree to our terms of service, we're basically going to deprecate your app to the point that you just won't care. And I mean, this is like strong arm tactics of the worst kind. If you're going to do it, then just say, look, these are the terms, or else. But it feels just a little worse than that by just and just say, okay, this is how it is, use it or not. And that I would be fine with that, but use it. Or if you don't agree to what we're going to, we're just going to take it away from you in bits and pieces and then just make it unusable. I don't know. It just rubbed me the wrong way. And I specifically wanted Andrew to come on and give us an update on that, because folks, if you're using Facebook, you need to be aware of some of this stuff, just the methodologies that they're using to try to continue to get your information.
Well, I mean, what they basically do is that they come in and they say, okay, well, you're not going to be able to do this little thing unless you hit this button. And for the people that don't hit that button, they wait a couple of days and go, okay, now you can't do this thing unless you hit this button. And they just keep doing that over and over again until they either leave the app or they hit the button that lets them get what they wanted in the first place. And frankly, most people aren't going to have the patience to go through that. So they're just going to go ahead and first time that button comes up, click, they're just going to click it right through.
Yeah,
that's what they do.
That's the other half of that. So as I wrote before in the past, we've talked about this on our own podcast at the Mac Observer. One of the big major features of iOS 14.5 is called app tracking transparency, which just means that if an app wants to track you, it wants to use your data for advertising, the system will pop up a little window that says, do you want to allow this or not? And Facebook has been sending a message to people in the Facebook and Instagram apps. I don't know if they did this in WhatsApp or not. I haven't seen that, but they just say, please allow this, please let us collect your data. And some of the reasons they give, it can help make the app free. It can help support small businesses on our platform, which at the same time is kind of true, right? Like that's one of the big kind of sayings in the privacy circle is, if you're not paying for it, then you're other product. And so there are a lot of legitimate services that do subsidize their services with advertising. But the distinction that we wanted to make is that Apple is only stopping Facebook and other companies from collecting user data across other apps and websites. Apple does not have any control over the data collection that is done on these in the app themselves. So for example, even if you click don't allow, I don't want Facebook to collect my data, they're still going to collect your data inside the app themselves. That's part of their terms and conditions. And so you're probably still going to get ads anyway, and they probably still will be personalized, AKA they're still going to be using your data because that's just how Facebook is.
Just again, we don't want to beat this one to death, folks, but just be aware and pay attention when you're seeing those pop-ups. And especially when it comes to a Facebook property, it just feels like you really got to pay extra attention because they're trying to skirt the rules. They're trying to kind of rewrite the rules, create their own rules. And if you're okay with it, then, hey, that's fine. We're okay with you being okay with it as long as you're informed. As long as you're informed.
Keep an eye out for Herr Zuckerberg.
Yeah. You're tipping your hand as to your position, Frank. Okay, so browsers. That's what we advertised tonight, and that's what I want to make sure we talk about. But I want to start at the very basic level because we have, I don't even know how many browsers are out there right now, but we will inevitably get into that. But Jeff, I'm going to start with you. I would like for you to explain to us why anybody cares which browser we use, not the user, but the manufacturer of these browsers. Since they're all given away, what do they get out of it? Are we back to the personal information thing?
For many browsers, yes. So if you're using say Google Chrome, that's the best example. Google Chrome is harvesting information from you. Many of the browsers that are built on Chromium, which is the open source code base for Google Chrome, will do the same thing. And that harvested information goes to Google or whoever else. For other companies like Apple with Safari, it's more about user lock-in. If you give a user all the tools they need to stay within your platforms, then they're less likely to leave. And if you give someone a default tool that's just part of the installation, they're more likely to use that than to go and download something else. And then there are other browsers, like when you get over into things like Brave and Firefox, then you're getting into browsers where their vested interest is more about maintaining the platform and providing a level of privacy, but then maybe having other services that they sell, and those services may not even be to end users. It might be services that cater to enterprise or back end, other big businesses.
So they have a vested interest in promoting the use of their browser, and they could be Apple, Google, what'd you just say, Brave? I'm blanking out. Opera, yeah, thank you. Opera, Firefox.
Vivaldi people are going to be coming after you soon.
What, Jay?
Vivaldi, they're going to come after you soon.
Vivaldi is coming, yeah. Today's edition of MacVoices is supported by Headspace. Headspace is meditation made simple. I've been telling you about Headspace for some time now, so I want to know, what's holding you back from giving it a try? Headspace is meditation made simple, a daily dose of mindfulness in the form of guided meditations in an easy-to-use app, and one of the only meditation apps advancing the field through clinically validated research. Whatever the situation, Headspace can probably help. No, I mean really help. For example, feeling overwhelmed? Headspace can help you with a 3-minute SOS meditation. And that's just the beginning. I started with a basic meditation and was immediately impressed by how much in control of the process Headspace made me. They not only make it easy to adopt, but also to stick with and grow with their programs. You deserve to feel happier, and Headspace is meditation made simple and more. Go to headspace.com/MacVoices. That's headspace.com/MacVoices for a free 1-month trial with access to Headspace's full library of meditations for every situation. That's the best deal offered right now, so go to headspace.com/MacVoices today. Thanks to Headspace for their support of MacVoices.
So here's my question, though, to Jeff and everybody, and this is a real question. If you use Chrome and you're searching on Google, if you're on Safari and you're searching on Google and Facebook and you're just doing things that are very not private, Amazon, things like that, compared to going on Chrome and searching DuckDuckGo through a VPN, is it the site that you're on, or is there something inherently built into Chrome that I've never been able to actually see that's actually collecting and sending data out to somewhere?
With Google Chrome, it's actually built into the browser. So that would be in addition to any tracking cookies or other tracking methods that websites or servers might be using. And for some people, that's what makes Microsoft Edge an appealing alternative to Google Chrome, because it uses the Chromium engine, but doesn't have the inherent always-on activity tracking that comes along with Google Chrome. Now, of course, it doesn't matter what browser you're using. If you log into a Google account and then start searching and hopping from website to website, at that point, Google is just able to track all of your activity simply because you're logged into your Google accounts.
I don't think that's why most people use Edge, though, is because they're worried that Google's tracking them. I think at least the people that I've asked, why are you using Edge? They say because Chrome is slow and it's a resource hog and it sucks. And unfortunately, there are so many applications out there that I can't use Safari with because of WebRTC issues and other compatibility issues. And I mean, if you look at any analytics tool, you'll see most of your users are coming from Chrome. So people develop for Chrome. And with Edge, you get that same Chromium engine that is the basis, bare bones of Chrome, but for some reason it just performs better. And I mean, I think people ultimately are just like, Google, your app is crazy, resource intensive. We see these posts that people come out and they say, hey, there's this thing that if you run this application, Chrome just runs faster. And all it is shutting down different processes that are running that we have no idea what it's doing. And then all of a sudden people are like, oh yeah, there's something wrong with Chrome. Chrome's bloated. Chrome has all this stuff in it. And it's like, I think people could care less what is happening with their data if they're not presented with a notification that says, hey, this is happening with your data, you should do something. I think ultimately people are just tired of their applications bringing their $2,000 laptops to a grinding halt.
I'll tell you one thing. I just opened up Chrome on my Mac for the first time in a while, and it's flying a lot faster than Edge was. And I think they just did an update not that long ago. So I mean, I read that they are trying to fix that memory hog stigma that they have, but I've been using Edge for so I haven't been able to compare it.
Yes, Jay, I switched to Edge from Chrome. I was using Chrome because I needed it for very specific job-related plugins, and then when Edge came along, I thought, okay, I'll switch over because it doesn't have the tracking. And then for me, the incredible bonus was, holy crap, this is fast. But I think you're right. I think most people that are using Edge are doing it because it's just faster, or because that's what came installed on their computer.
I'll put an enterprise spin on this. Google Chrome and Edge. Of course, we expect Microsoft being able to be managed. So all the browsers can be managed in one way or another, where they can put in policies and restrict what people can and cannot do. A lot of companies go with like Google Chrome. They want to be able to block all the plugins or the extensions because they have some vulnerabilities. They have to protect systems so things aren't causing problems. So before Microsoft switched to Chromium Edge, I mean, they had their own base, they had their Microsoft Edge, and it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. It was just, it ranked like probably number 2 to Internet Explorer, if I can want to save that word, because that's just probably one of the worst browsers they're ever known to man. So same thing with Firefox. And all the browsers, which is nice, they're scalable. You actually can lock things down and keep things secure, and they've made it very easy. I mean, Google made it very easy. Like, then they've got systems in place where you can just go in and create a plist for a Mac, let's say, and be able to control what you want as far as that setting, and the same thing with Edge. Edge, but I definitely noticed performance improvements with Edge for sure. Chrome's getting there. I think all the Chromium-based browsers are up to version 90 now. So I mean, then they've really gone a long way. I use Firefox primarily on my Mac, and I tend to like Firefox. I've just been used to it for so long, and I think my Firefox has gotten a lot better because it was slow at points too, but I think it's improved as well. But all the corporate, so what's the thing with enterprise? They all look at all those browsers and they want to lock it down to just one browser or one or two browsers and try to keep a control so it's safe.
I have a question for Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
You said that if you use Safari but you're logged into your Google account, then Google can track you anywhere. What's the mechanism for that? Like, if I visit apple.com but I'm logged into my Google account, how could Google track that in Safari?
I don't understand exactly how it all works, not being a coder. But that's what's supposed to happen. When you log into a Google account in a browser, then Google is tracking your activity from that point forward. If you're not logged into a Google account in Safari, then you get all the benefits that go along with using Safari as far as privacy goes.
I don't see how they would have to patch Safari somehow in a way that I don't see Apple allowing them to do that.
Yeah, Andrew, do you know more about this than I do?
Let's see. I know Google has made recent moves. They're trying to come up with a new and improved tracking system. It's called FLOC. I think it stands for Federated Learning of Cohorts. And it sounds like they're trying to do more browser-based tracking as opposed to like these third-party cookies that other companies can put on your browser. I don't have more information off the top of my head, but it kind of sounds like what you're talking about.
But that's something that browser makers have to incorporate, and Apple has announced that we're absolutely having no part of that.
Well, yeah, that's the great part is that Apple is not building it into Safari. I think Firefox is not doing that as well. I think maybe one or two other browser makers did that too. So they are getting some pushback.
So if you're
I'm
logged
assuming
into
that part of what Google is doing is taking advantage of the fact that that they've put a lot of code out there for web developers to use. And for example, if you're using Google Analytics, then you're putting some Google code into your website. And I'm assuming they're just linking into that code that they already have, because it's sending data back to servers anyhow, and they're just attaching your account to that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you visit pages that are using Google code, and Analytics is probably the biggest one, but I'm pretty sure there's no Google code on any of Apple pages. That's why I used Apple as my example.
Okay, so that's actually a really good example. Maybe it probably is limited just to websites that are using Google code at that point, which is probably a lot of websites.
I'm sure it's a lot, but you said universal, so that I was kind of like, really?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's probably not really universal.
It's a lot, but
this is called FLOC.
No. FLOC is another thing that Google is trying to do in the future. But the point is, right now, if you're logged into a Google account,
yeah,
and you visit a site that, say, uses Google Analytics, Google is going to get that information of, oh, you visited.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. FLOC just sounds like some kind of James Bond villain organization.
Kind of, FLOC is, basically, as Jeff was saying, Chrome, it's built into the browser itself. So even if you visit apple.com, Google knows about it.
Mm-hmm.
And Google is like, yeah, this is great. We want this, all the time, no matter what browser you're using. So other browser makers, I don't know what they're smoking. Apple is never going to put this in Safari. So,
that's why I can't use Safari or Firefox for work. I have to use Chrome because that's what work is telling me I have to use.
Mm-hmm.
Or a Chromium, or probably a Chromium based browser.
Well, that has to do with what David was saying. Yeah, that's what David was saying, that that they allow them to lock that down. So
yeah.
Well, I think there's two issues though. I think there's the issue of tracking, and then there's the issue of just the web browser, working. I usually have Chrome open on my computer because there's just some, I primarily use Safari, but there's just some websites, they just don't work. It's basically like I'll go to something and go like, in Safari, and I'll be like, oh, this content isn't showing up. Or, for example, I use Bitbucket issue tracker and it doesn't work in Safari. And, it's kind of like the old IE days where, I think it was Jay saying, Google's got the web development tools that, are sort of like the most commonly used. And so web developers are like, oh, well, I'll just make it work in Chrome, and I'll assume that means it works everywhere. And that's not true. Well,
Jeff and I ran into this the other night. We were testing a podcasting platform, and they said specifically that you have to use Chrome. And Jeff tried it with Jeff. What was it? Edge?
It was with Edge.
and it did not work properly. Shift over to Chrome, and it works great. And I have mixed feelings about this because part of me, Jim, as you just said, this smacks of the old IE days, and what happened to open standards and open access. And I get it. Okay, so some companies can jump through some hoops with if you use a specific browser, but at what cost? And here we go again. We seem to be harping on this a lot, but is it the cost of our privacy, our data? And honestly, I've forgotten, and I'm embarrassed to say I probably have logged in to it, but can I use Chrome without logging into a Google account?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. It's been so long since I've been prompted that I just figured.
Well, the weird thing is it's still, even if you're not logged in, it still kind of knows that it's you just based on prior activity. But there's almost no reason to not log in, because if you're going to use Chrome as a browser, the benefits of being logged into a Google account to use Chrome as a browser is far greater than not being logged in. It's like one of the benefits of using something like Safari is you've got the built-in password generator and keeper. So, for things like banking and some of the other things that I do, I just, even though I have one password, I just automatically go ahead and use Safari because it's one click and my password is safe and it's going into whatever website it needs to go into. So whether it's credit cards or banking or whatever, Safari for me is the more secure and less intrusive browser.
Mm-hmm. All the browsers have an option where if you sign in, it will sync your browsers across devices. So same with Safari, because Safari is doing the same thing with your iCloud. So they're all doing that. And Chrome was one of the first browsers, I think, that had the syncing across the browsers.
About for bookmarks?
Well, it started with
settings and bookmarks.
Settings, bookmarks, and then passwords, right? You grab the passwords.
See, I would not trust every single time I'm in Chrome. Every time I'm in Chrome and I get a password prompt, I always get that, save password for future use. It's like, no.
Let me ask you this, guy. Why are you saying no? Yeah. They already know it.
Not if I don't put it in there. They don't know it.
Well, if you don't enter the password, sure.
Well, you're entering the password.
If you enter the password,
if you're now for things like Facebook or things, social media accounts, I don't care, because those are the kinds of activities where it's like, okay, so you get my Facebook account. I don't care.
I'm saying,
but for the stuff that I do care about, even with stuff like Facebook or Twitter, just for reasons, I won't click that box.
But what I'm saying is, if you're seeing the box save password for future use, that means you just entered the password. Okay, so
not necessarily. A lot of times that checkbox comes up by default on the enter your password box without even having put in a password yet.
So getting back to the idea of tracking, I guess the disclosure here is I work for a database company, one that Andrew actually just wrote about recently because there was some stuff, but that wasn't us. That was people not doing their job. Anyway, one of the things that we do is we have the ability to run all of the Nginx logs from a web server into our database, and we can visualize it. So I have a website that I literally don't do much with, but it gets a small trickle of web visits every single day. I don't run Google Analytics. I don't run anything other than React and Nginx, which is serving this to people. You have to serve it somehow. I can still see where all of this traffic is coming from. Now, granted, if someone uses a VPN, it tells me it's coming from the middle of Kyrgyzstan, not, San Diego, California. And that's great. But this is even without giving my information to Google to look at, without figuring anything other than just user asked my server for information and I had to be able to send it to them. And my thing is, if I can do this just on my little $5 a month server that I'm just running and hosting by myself, what can Google do when they are getting this information and more from thousands, actually probably at this point, millions of websites every single day, every single hour? Another million records from all the different sites. And they can, I can look at what IP addresses they came from. And if I can put 2 and 2 together, I can see what browsers people are using. I can see what operating systems people are using. I can see what version of operating systems that people are using. If I can get all of that information just from someone making a server request and me not asking for any more data, what is Google able to do with all of the information that they're asking for?
Well, you can see the operating system in that information because the browser is sending it to you. That's not required for communication. You could do it in curl, and the somebody that wants to keep that secret could lie about it.
Yeah.
But the thing about Google is that they're and the thing about the reason why they don't do it the way you're doing it is because people do run through VPNs and all kinds of stuff like that. But when Google's got trackers, that means they're actually running code on your machine. And that does punch right through VPNs and stuff like that.
And they can also they can say okay, if the next 100 sites that Chuck goes and visits has Google Analytics, that same packet of information that is sent to my site is also being sent to all of those sites. And now Google is seeing all of that. And they can put 2 and 2 together and say, wow, Chuck sure likes going to Amazon and buying all this stuff. And then he likes going to, this other place, and he likes buying Nestle water from this company. Maybe I can prioritize the ads from this place over here that has all those things for Chuck, which Chuck sees as a great thing, except for Chuck never gave them permission to do that. And also they can go back to the ads and say, I have top level intel that says Chuck wants this ad. How much are you going to pay for that, knowing that the odds of getting a sell because Google's doing its thing in the background, the value is just way higher than what anyone else can provide, other than, the other victim in the room that we've talked about today, which is Facebook, because Facebook is just doing the exact same thing, except for, every once in a while they'll fuss about Apple, telling them, hey, stop that.
This conversation went directions I had no idea it was going to go. And so next time on MacVoices, the panel wraps up some of the geekier aspects of our first examination of who's using which browser and why. Then we get into some of the add-ons and enhancements that you can use for your browser to get done whatever it is that you want to do. That's next time on MacVoices. I hope you'll join us. Until then, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.